Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, of course. If you haven't already, hit that like button. It definitely helps me out. And if you're new, you know, this is what's going on, folks. Appreciate you chiming in. Hello. Everybody chime in, say hello, where you're from, you know, chime in some of your favorite effects and all that good stuff as well. So if you guys, you know, got any questions about how I'm doing the things I'm doing, I'd usually take some time to explain. Oh yeah, all these pedals. It's not even all the pedals. It's just the pedals I use on the regular. But so the sound you're listening to there is made up of the Empress, well, of course, my regular bass, the Empress compressor, the ToneX 1 running a preamp on there, into the MS-70 Plus, the Plethora X1 is running the shimmer reverb, and then finishing up with the Source Audio Atlas compressor. So we're gonna get back to it. Let's go to something else. Yeah. I love that shimmer reverb on there. It's amazing. Let's do. Where's the spot? Switch over to the pedalboard view here. Let's create a sound. Let's see what we want to start with. So we already kind of picking out reverb and stuff. I know I got a sound queued up on the this is on. Always one of my favorites. Change this. Actually, I'm gonna change this one to, yeah, that should be fine. Thank you, I appreciate that. This is the bass I'm playing is actually one of a kind. This company is the Artisan Bass Works, and this is the custom 6-string Fidelity series, and this one in particular is they're not in existence anymore, unfortunately. But one of the things that makes it unique is that the bass itself is on a different plane, it sits like this on my leg. Like I don't have to hold it. There's no neck dive or nothing. I'm not even holding the bass. I have no strap. It just sits like that. Yo, that what? That joint can have you in a chokehold. Let me get this back to something else. There we go. So let's create something for me to use that sound over. Let's see. I think I want to go over here to the Enzo X and get some work in on the Enzo X real quick. Take all this off. Yep. Yeah, I think that'll work, something like that. Oh yeah, you know, I love having gear. If you haven't noticed, I love having some good gear around. So I'm gonna lay this down real quick so I have something to play over. Cause if you're new, this is ambient bass mornings, ambient bass effects mornings, and I really don't do as much talking as I do playing, hopefully. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna lay a loop on the Digitech Jam Man Solo HD. These happen to be my favorite looper pedals here. There we go. Let's bring this volume Now we're just gonna create some layers. So yeah, you see how easy it can be to be inspired by sounds. Let's see what we got going on in the chat here. And if you're just joining us, welcome to Ambient Bass Effects Mornings. I appreciate all you guys stopping by, seeing a lot of the usual suspects popping up. Let's go. And if you're new, the usual suspects is just the usual bass crew over here that loves the bass effects community, and we all gather and, what I'm saying, do our thing, just hang out a little bit. So feel free to comment and all that extra stuff. And hit that like button. It definitely helps me out a lot. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to the people that have subscribed to the different platforms while we've been on. And if you want any of my presets for these various pedals you see, let me go and switch over here. You know what I'm saying? You got the MS-60B Plus pack, the Enzo X, the Future Impact V4, the C4 synth, 11 different preamp packs for the ToneX series pedals and software. MS-70 Plus as well is on there, and the Zoom B6. So if you have any of those pedals and you want my preset packs, it's all on the Patreon. If you want to support the channel, it's on the Patreon. And if you want to support the channel on YouTube, we also have memberships now, which next week I'm going to start things like this. May not be as, public. It may be only for the members. I haven't decided yet, but there is a certain segment that I'm going to do, that's going to be just for the members only. So, but thank you guys for hanging out so far. Hit that hype button if you haven't already. And don't forget you got Super Chat and Cash App available. But, yeah, so I did quite a few different sounds there. So I guess the solo sound will start there. Ooh, I love that sound. That's the Hog 2 mostly. And the Hog 2, if you're not familiar, it's this big silver pedal here. And is an amazing pedal. You probably can find, you can't get these brand new anymore, I don't believe, but you should be able to find these for about $350. You know what I'm saying? Which is a steal. Look at all the octaves you get. You get 2 octaves down all the way up to 4 octaves up. And you can use them all simultaneously if you wanted to. And if you want to have the upper octaves have a different envelope, say you want the upper octaves just to hit, and you want the lower octaves to fade in, you can do that as well. Or vice versa, have it fade in. So you can actually have 2 different envelopes for the upper and lower octaves. So anything from an octave and a half up is on the upper envelope here. Anything from the octave down is on these faders here. So, then on top of that, you got pitch bend. So if I want to take all of those octaves, let's put these back like this. You got a filter here as well. Step bend, which I actually like to use with the 2 octaves up, right? Actually, is that an octave up? Also, if I want to do sounds like that. So, definitely comes in handy. And let me catch some of these questions. I'm supposed to catch some of these questions. So, before we get too far, No, I don't have the Dark Side of the Moon pedal at all. Definitely appreciate all the compliments, folks. Appreciate all y'all chiming in. Let's see what else we got here. Appreciate y'all. That actually is a synth. The Enzo X is a real synth for bass and guitar. You know what I'm saying? So is the Future Impact V4. These are literally, and the C4 synth technically, all these are actual synths. So like, let me see what we got here. Oh, that's real synth, the Future Impact bass that came. That's real synth as well. And, the Hog 2 technically is called the Harmonic Octave Generator Guitar Synthesizer. So it's technically like a way to take your bass sound transform it to different things. So it's definitely an amazing synth. All these pedals can get you into the synth territory. Even things like the Mel 9, the Key 9, the vocoder pedal here, V256, and the Rabbit Sitar, all get you into different territories that's that's different than just your normal bass sound. So I recommend any pedal you see up here, you don't even got to ask about. It's already recommended, just by me keeping it on my board. So let me see what else we got here. No, I haven't tried the Empress. I think that's that little box with the pads on it. The Zoya, I think it is Empress Zoya. Well, I'm not sure how to pronounce the actual name, but yeah, I think that's a pretty cool pedal. But the Enzo X and Future Impact and even the C4 synth are going to be a little bit more pedalboard friendly than something like that. Let me see what else we got here. Yep, definitely 6-string bass. Definitely appreciate you subscribing. No, ain't gonna be no Hog and no multi-effects pedal no time soon. I can tell you that, and that's because the Hog 2 is a multi-effects pedal within itself. It's not only has octaves, it's got the envelope. They made this envelope into a separate pedal now. And this filter, which is amazing. Whole different thing. You also got a wah-wah, you got freeze gliss on here. You got a lot of potential sounds just with this unit that the multi-effects units are still trying to get 1 and 2 octaves, up and down correct, in my opinion. I still haven't heard 2 octaves that I've really liked from a lot of companies. So, I wouldn't hold my breath for a Hog 2. Now the bias effects on the iPad does have a Pog 2 emulation, but again, it's not going to be anywhere near the Electro-Harmonix quality. The Electro-Harmonix is an amazing company. It's not the biggest company in the world, but them and JHS are some of the best. I like a lot of their stuff. I'm talking through a color box now, so. But yeah, so Hog 2 definitely has some amazing sounds. The other sounds were coming from the Enzo X, which is the big gold pedal here, and literally that entire synth sounds, like those entire signal chains, was just the Enzo X and nothing else. And the Enzo X, like I said, is another multi-effects pedal. It has modulations, delay, reverbs. It has 3 filters, drives, like 3 or 4 different drives, bit crusher, ring mod, on top of being a poly and a monophonic octaver, and having 2 oscillator synths in there and ARPs and everything. So not only that, but then you get a ton of ways to modify those sounds. So you can take an expression pedal and control up to 6 parameters at a time on the Enzo X, or you can have it set up to where you press this whole modifier button here and it works similar to the Flux the Flux and the on the HX1 and the Mash on the Plethora X1. It works very similar to that, but you can pick up the six parameters and have them go crazy. So a good example of that would be, where is it? See, it just drops it. So even things like that. So again, you can just set it up for some really ridiculous features there that is really hard to do with other units without it all being inside of one unit. You know what I mean? So having another reason I kind of like having sounds like that, or pedals like that rather, even though I have all these other reverbs and stuff, it's easier for me to get that pedal, like those effects within that pedal, to work together than it is everything else, right? So I'd have to run, have the MIDI set up with the time clock and all this extra stuff, and it's all within one pedal. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, even though I can't use delay and reverb at the same time on the Enzo X, I really don't miss it. When I get to that large prism reverb, it's over. This the hall reverb. That's just the hall joint. That's the medium. Let me check. Make sure I'm not misquoting. No, that's the large prism. That's only 35% decay. That is massive. At 35%, we gotta go up. That is a massive reverb, and it for some reason I got it on about 35% on this patch. You know, in terms of the wet dry mix, so it's only 35% wet, but it make you want to play just one note, and it just rings out so beautifully. Sorry, that reverb in that Enzo X is just fire. I love that large prism. Sounds like just it just like I don't know if you guys have on earphones or headphones or listening to get some good speakers, but good gracious, is that a massive reverb and the fact that I can always, I didn't even change the mix or the decay right there. What I did was change how much of the highs and the lows were going through. So I pretty much has a low pass filter, high pass filter type thing going on. And so, I just basically changed that. So now the lower notes aren't in the reverb, right? And also like the really extremely high notes aren't in there as well. Compared to this is with it fully open. See, when it's fully open, you're getting all those bass frequencies. Now bring a little bit of that out. And then bring some of them highs out, and you get a much still a massive sounding reverb. It's like playing in a massive cave or something. But yeah, I definitely find this pedal, the Enzo X, definitely like oddly satisfying. But all right, let's go on to something else. Let's see what we got in the chat here. No, I haven't tried the Game Changer Auto Reverb. Got to try, some of these pedals. I literally not gonna be able to get to every single pedal that comes out because I do this myself. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the other channels, they getting this stuff for free. That's why they always got positive reviews about gear that really ain't that good. How does everything be awesome? Like, come on. Like that doesn't make sense. That makes nothing awesome. It just makes everything normal. But whatever, See what else we got. Yeah, 6-string definitely is a major thing. And I am going to do lessons. I have 3 courses coming out. I have an improvisation course, a bass technique course, and a music theory course. I'm definitely not giving that away for free. That won't be anywhere near YouTube for free. That will be over on Patreon, definitely behind a paywall, because that is the information that will definitely change your playing. I don't mind giving something away for free, but you give everything away for free, it has no value, first off. For everybody, everything just given away for free, and people don't value things that don't have a cost. And it took me a lifetime to get these skills. I ain't giving away all that for free, and neither does the college or any of the schools or even the nonprofits, that teach. A lot of them have fees and things that you may have to pay, even if you're not paying like full price for everything, So, yeah, I'm definitely going to have them courses coming. I know I've been talking about that for a while, but it takes a while to film my courses, you know what I'm saying? Because I believe in being very detailed in explanation, but I have to also make it concentrated because I don't want you guys to lose interest while you're doing the course, you know what I'm saying? But I want it to be effective. I want it to be to the point and effective to where the majority of people that take the course and take it seriously will come out better. And that's pretty much the goal. That's awesome. They doing whole pedal meetups at the VFW. Yeah, we got VFWs around here too. I'm in the Maryland area. So, but yeah, I definitely appreciate all you guys hanging out with me. You know, this takes, you know, takes a community to do this something like this, and I definitely appreciate all you guys just hanging out with me, chilling. And if you have any, ooh, Enzo X, boy, you just touch it and it just makes sounds that just are amazing. So you gotta find some inspiration. This is how I find inspiration. I create all these patches, mind you, all these patches on Patreon. So, you know, and I've been thinking about doing some other little things with the patches that'll give you guys a little bit more flexibility. But just ridiculous sounds anytime you turn it on. But yeah, that's how just killer the Enzo X is. It just, I mean, even now, listen to that. Oh, that's fire. Like, and you gotta understand, like, it's just when you playing it, the sound, like the Enzo X, like becomes like part of like what you're doing. It makes you at certain times, like with a sound like that, it makes you want to slow it down. And give the sound time to respond. And that just gives you much more to work with there. What's going on, folks? Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, Neo Lover, appreciate you. Definitely one of the people that has made quite a few of the future impact videos happen for you guys. So, you know, he's definitely, if you've been benefiting from the future impact videos, you know, he's definitely a huge part of that. Person, you know, not only put me on with it, but, you know, help me get everything straightened out. So I appreciate you a lot. And I appreciate all my Patreon subscribers and Patreon people that have bought preset packs. Thank you guys. You know, I always like to shout you guys out a few times in the video because you guys help keep the channel growing. You know, you quite frankly, you help keep me inspired. You know, a little cash definitely help you get up and make it happen. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate all you guys who have supported in the various ways, even the people that's just watching on the various platforms, you know what I'm saying? And the people that have sent super chats, cash apps, rubies, or whatever, you know, on different platforms. Thank you guys. I completely appreciate you. And, you know, we're going to keep it going. You know, I'm not going to leave you guys out there, you know. And if you haven't already, hit the like button wherever you are. Chime in. You know, feel free to lock in with us. It's like I'm constantly being inspired by the Enzo X. I mean, from the pad sounds to the solo sounds. And that's one pedal, mind you. That's not like 50 pedal. I appreciate you chiming in over on Twitch. Thank you. Thank you. So, you know, it's one pedal, and I know it's 600. I know it's 600. But you can also play these same sounds with a keyboard, which means all these pads, all the bass synths, all the ARP stuff, you can just play with a keyboard, you know, have your bass synth rig in there with it, or you can do things like, you know, like have it set up for a million things. It also has MIDI, so you can control a lot of different parameters with MIDI and everything. So, or is it? So, I mean, it's just solo sounds for days. Favorite joint on here. That joint's fire, yo. That is literally like my favorite ARP on this joint. Playing 4-note chords versus 3-note chords, it changes the pattern as well. So 3-note chords. Yeah, I love this joint. it just tracks you very well. I just played one chord. Now if I change the quality of that chord, and it inspires you to try different things. Like, you know, of course I could have just played the one chord. Okay, I hit a chord progression. All right, let me try to manipulate this chord progression by moving, you know, the first chord around type thing. So it gives you a lot of little ideas like that, and it just keeps giving new ideas. Not to mention the sound quality is just insane. That's fire. You got tap tempo right there. So you just get into film scoring, you can get into ambient sounds. You know, it's got a little bit of everything in there. And, you know, so I say that to say, yes, you know, sometimes you spend quite a bit of money on a pedal like an Enzo X, but very few times is it, you know what I'm saying, exactly what that Enzo X is pretty much a keyboard, a synthesizer, a real full feature synthesizer in a pedal form. The same thing with the Future Impact V4 VIP. The main difference is going to be between the two units. The Future Impact V4 is definitely going to be better for your vintage bass synth sounds. Like you can get literally pretty much any vintage bass synth sound with that pedal. Enzo X, you pretty much it's its own thing. Like you're not really recreating sounds with it. You're creating sounds, new sounds with it. So I found that, you know, of course the Future Impact has that ability as well, but you know, that's just pretty much how I kind of interpret each unit. The Enzo X, hands down, can do an entire song by itself, like just by itself. And yes, the Future Impact could too, you know, but it doesn't have the polyphony. It doesn't have like the stereos imaging of the Enzo X. It doesn't have the, you know, the synth, the same sounding type of oscillators and synth. Everything in the Enzo X sounds very modern, while the Future Impact V4 VIP has all like just like if you want all the Michael Jackson synths, or you want to be able to create like Moog type synths and things like that, you're gonna have a much easier time doing that with an Enzo X. And luckily, you don't have to do it for real. You can just go to my Patreon, grab my preset pack, and bow, you got it. And same thing with the Enzo X. You don't have to spend 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours programming the jank, learning the unit, all this extra stuff. You just download my preset pack, throw it on there. With the Enzo X, you want to cut your blows on your bass, cut the bass, boost your low mids, you know, roll off your highs just a little bit. And with the Future Impact, it works pretty much similar to other tracks similar to other octave pedals, where most octave pedals want you to push the high mids a little bit, and and roll off the bass a little bit. You know what I'm saying? The Future Impact definitely can get you some crazy stuff. So depends on what you're gonna be using the units for, which one would be recommended for you. And thank you, I appreciate that. Appreciate that, yeah, because them packs took forever. Packs took forever to create. And let's since we're here, might as well not leave the Enzo X, Future Impact hanging here. We go through some. And just already, as soon as you just turn it on, it just gets. Future Impact can get you some nice lead sounds too, you know what I'm saying? In addition to just the big, massive. I can just get such big, fat bass simps with the Future Impact. I don't. Just dirty. Oh, yeah, no problem. Oh yeah, this is an Artisan Bassworks bass, and this company doesn't exist anymore, but it is the Fidelity series. This is my custom series with them. So, but and these basses these they cost a lot more than what the Sire bases are. So anyway, so even if you find them used, they're gonna run you a little bit of money. But I most people that have them don't even sell them. Like everybody I know that has one still has it. So, you know, it might be a stretch to try to find something like this. And this, I don't like wide spacing on a six string. I actually this spacing is closer to a five string, like in terms of the whole neck is closer to what a lot of bass players might have on their five string with the wider spacing. So it's like it fitted the six string within a wider five string spacing somehow. So it's a pretty thin neck, like it's asymmetrical and things like that. So it's a lot more to this bass than it looks like. But I would say, man, whatever you can get your hands on to play that you like, that is most important. I played a sound gear, Ibanez sound gear six string for years with the Bartolini pickups and three band EQ on there. I used to rock that joint. Like it's like my whole. I did have other basses before that, but that Ibanez did me fine for years. So I mean, like you don't need to use, and I bought that joint for 400 used. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to spend a lot on a bass. Awesome. Yeah, everybody. I'm kind of selling off gear right now myself. You know what I'm saying? I got a few pedals I'm gonna let go so I can get some new pedals in here for you guys to try out. Like I said, I have to pay for these out of my pocket. So one of the ways I do it is when I'm not using pedals too much, I just go and get rid of them and take that money, reinvest it into the channel. The same thing I do from the views and the Patreon and all that stuff. I just take the money, you know, what I don't use for bills, you know what I'm saying? I always take a good portion of that money and just reinvest it back into what we doing here. Keep the channel, keep you guys entertained with new pedals and stuff. Hey, I can definitely understand that. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, um, a more expensive bass ain't really don't really do a whole lot for you. I picked this bass because I feel like it could compete with all the super duper expensive basses. And this bass, while it's not a cheap bass at all, you got plenty of basses that cost more than this one. So, I would say, pick something that you just connect with. Don't worry, that price is overrated because it doesn't matter if you give somebody $100 bass and they can really play, they still gonna kill whatever's going on with if you know what I'm saying. So it really doesn't matter. And that, I would say always keep in mind what you buying and why you buying it. Those are some expensive basses. The Ken Smiths are reasonable. I would say out of those three, Fedora. I like all of those basses actually, but the Ken Smith is gonna be heavy. I'm gonna tell you that now. That just gonna weigh that Ken Smith heavy, but it slap. Yeah, yeah. I do all of that stuff. If there's a bass technique, I do it. So that's not an issue. But so I use one bass. This is the only bass. This is the only bass I play. I don't have 5 6 basses. I don't need them. What are they? One of my main things too, and I can recommend for you guys is don't switch basses so much. Like your bass is part of your sound. Like find a bass that really connects with you, speaks to you, and then get every sound you need out of that bass. You don't need a separate bass for slapping than you do for finger style. I don't know where that came from, but trust and believe. You'll gain a lot more from playing one instrument consistently. That is a really good instrument, you know, but than switching basses all the time, because the spacings are different, which means your fingers aren't getting a chance to always get used to the same spacing. Like when I play other basses, it feels weird because I'm used to this exact spacing, and when this exact spacing isn't there, now I'm like having to either overstretch or change how I'm positioning my chords or whatever the case. But yeah, so I try not to do too much of that. So it's about time to change these strings anyway. Old school right there. So yeah, gotta do a little bit of everything these days. You know, you never know on a gig, and I always recommend checking out as many techniques as possible, guys. Don't get stuck just playing fingerstyle and then they need something else and you ain't got it, you know. And it's for your own creative needs as well. When I want to write a song and I want to add, or I'm playing a song and I want to just add some different things, you know, harmonics or chords, slap or double thumb. Double thumb on the finger, two fingers and a double thumb. So it's really important that you can learn as many techniques and just add them in there. Yeah, I've heard of those basses. Yeah, you must have like monstrous hands or something. Like you really want this large space on this bass really bad. I can't do it personally. I don't play, you know, I don't like to say who I play and don't play or nothing like that, you know, because I'm you know, I'm in the gear world, so I want to try to relatively, you know, keep those relationship connections possible. But that's the reason why I don't play a lot of basses off the shelf, you know, because I'm very particular about that string spacing, especially when it comes to the top and stuff. It gets in the way, you know, if I'm trying to do. You know, or if I go to do the stride version of that, which would be. whatever else you want to do, you know, with the top and stuff. For me, I like to keep like reasonable. You know, it's about the width of my finger, like not the width, the height of my finger in between the strings. It's typically I have such weird like measuring. It's like the width of my finger. But yeah, let's see what else we got in here. I definitely appreciate that. You chimed in for the church live. Yeah, I'll be going live at church as well. If you're ever interested in hearing me play gospel stuff, which I don't really play outside of church too much. You know, I grew up in church, so, you know, I played piano and organ in church since I was a child. You know, never really stopped playing church. So, but of course, what I like to do for a living is pretty much jazz fusion. That's what my artistry usually ends up being, which includes things like the ambient side of work and everything else. But if you want to catch me playing some gospel live on Sundays, you know, we start at 11, you know, so if you tune into my channel at 11, if you subscribe right now, hit that notification bell, you'll know every time I go live. I go live, try to go live once a day, starting between 9 and 10 in the morning, and I try to do another session sometime after 4 in the evening. Like this today, I'm not gonna be able to do it because I'll be teaching this evening. But I try to at least do one live a day where I talk about different bass things, and you can always chime in and we can have these conversations and different things. Yeah, that's all you need is two good basses and a board, man. Like, to be honest, like upgrading is subjective, like in the bass world. I know we think we see that higher price tag, it automatically means it's better. But really, when have you ever listened to a record and been like, this bass isn't expensive enough. I just just can't get into this song because the bass they're playing doesn't cost enough. Nobody care about that. They care about what you play on that tune. And trust and believe, nobody cares what bass you play. It's all in your fingers anyway. Like the tone, the actual tone that you're searching for is not in another instrument. It's in your hands, more than likely. So, you know, you wanna. That's what I said. Just spend some time with what you got. It'll probably save you a ton of money not buying these. I'm not gonna say they overpriced because it is art within itself. Like it is an art. It is difficult to build something like this if you don't know what you're doing. You don't have years and years of experience, and something that's gonna be durable and last, sound amazing, look amazing. That is an art form in itself. So I can't say that they're overpriced, but you don't have to have an expensive bass like to get it in. You know what I'm saying? I say around once you get past that 3,000 to 5,000 mark, it starts to be diminishing returns. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's like when I'm a cyclist as well. So it's like when you start getting into bikes that are over 2-3 grand, like it starts to be like micro things. It weighs a few grams less. Oh, this one has this new system that's out for the derailleurs, and this has the electronic derailleur. You know, it's wireless. You don't really need that to ride a bike, because at the end of the day, somebody that come up and that's really in shape, that's a pro cyclist, can get on a $500 bike, $1,000 bike, and work you. Like, and work you. I'm trying to tell you. So don't think it's the instrument. It's all with the side of you. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that would be the best advice. Just, you know, I got kids too. I got 3 kids of my own, so them kids expensive, boy. Save that money for something else. Yeah, get you a fretless, and now stuff like that. A fretless will make a huge difference to your arsenal. You know what I'm saying? A fretless definitely would do you good. In terms of it's going to get you a whole different territory of sound, versus most people, and I mean most people on earth, will never be able to hear the difference between my bass, your bass, or any of the other basses. They know that's an E. They know that sound as a bass, but they can't really distinguish what bass it is and all that. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, them kids gonna get you on that cash all day. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, the kids is the main thing that matter. That bass gonna come and go. Them kids, even if you took them on for the price of them basses you name, and that's like 8 vacations, bro. That's like 8 vacations, yo. You know what I'm saying? And I know sometimes we just want to get something new, but it doesn't mean that what you have isn't good enough, And I'm pretty sure them kids gonna start wearing cars and stuff, bro. You spending a car on a bass, it gets hard for me. And just to help you out too, a lot of people you seen playing super, super expensive basses were gifted them. Like they gave them basses or made them because they needed the marketing, that needed to be visible. I mean, it is what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what else we got. Yeah, if you're gonna mod a bass, getting a cheaper bass. If you into changing stuff out and you into, like, when I got my Ibanez, I switched out the bridge, and things like that, set it up myself. If you're into learning and just doing stuff, buying a cheaper bass is definitely less stressful than trying to, like, I would never alter anything on this bass myself. Like, I always take it to a Luther, even when I'm going to have it refretted. I'm not doing none of that. Now, if I had that Ibanez $400 bass still, I might just try it just to see if I could do it. But something like this that I can't get replaced at all, I'm not touching it at all, whatever. Yeah, and it's all subjective too, cheap basses, they're good because you can throw them around. You're not as worried about them, and you can mod them without worrying about them. In expensive basses, typically you don't have to mod because they are really good already. Like this already has a graphite neck and all that extra, great bridge and great, I have a, what is this, a EMG DC 45 or 45 DC pickup. It's DC, I think it's 45 DC pickup. And then this Aguilar OP3 3-band EQ in here with the pull-out mid. So I have the pull-out mid switch to go from low mids and to high mids and things like that. So very simplistic design here. I don't even like too many knobs on my bass. It's too distracting. I don't want all them switches. I don't want all that stuff. None of that. I want a 3-band EQ. And I don't even want a 4-band. It's not even a 4-band. Either you can alter the mid or the low mids, or you can alter the high mids. It's two different sounds to it, and that's all I want from my bass. I don't want it. And then I got bass and treble and volume, and I can pretty much get to any sound I want to get to from there. If I want a scoop sound, so yeah, that's what I would recommend. Just get what you like. Always never be afraid to treat yourself sometimes and get you a nice, bass or whatever the case. But yeah, don't feel pressured. Don't feel pressure like you ain't fire. You can be fire with any bass in your hands. You feel me? Like that bass ain't making you, just like the shoes don't make your man jump higher and all this extra stuff. Listen. Anything coming out that instrument coming from your hands. And I pretty much sound like this on any instrument I play. Like me playing a C is going to sound like that even when I change the mids. It's just how my fingers sound. All the EQ doing is accentuating how my fingers sound against the strings, vibrating over the magnets and the wood resonating. So, most of it is your fingers. I might get a ding wall one day. That is something that I might get. I do like the ding wall just because they're such a different design. They so clean too. I like the clarity of them joints. It's like they be like a bell. Like them suckers cut. Them ding walls. I'm definitely thinking about a ding wall. Oh yeah, the Bartolini's been fire for years. You know, I got hip to the Bartolini pickups on the Ken Smiths. Like, you know, I grew up in church, like I said, so like a lot of the bass players had them Ken Smiths growing up in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? So that was my sound for a slap like that I had in my head. You know, a lot of times you hear other players play and then that becomes like the sound until you start playing. Like that's the sound of a slap bass. It for me growing up was a Ken Smith. So, you know, now I can, you know, I realize I can do that with anything, but I do like how those are voiced. I love EMGs also. That's what I have one EMG in here. It looks like two pickups, but this is just a bridge, and then it's one pickup. One pickup with some strings that need to be changed. But let's see what else we got here. Also, and I do highly recommend that you get some. If you don't be afraid to get some lessons. You know, it's nothing wrong with you getting lessons, and I think that's really smart. Anybody that wants to skip the line and doesn't want to have to, and I'm actually gonna offer a limited amount of video in one-on-ones, probably about 30 minutes each, once a month. I'm gonna start offering that on the Patreon. So if that's something you guys are interested in, that'll be available on there. But that's something. If you want to skip the line, you got to get to the people that have already done it and that are capable of doing what you want to do already. Now, if you want to waste a few years, you know what I'm saying? You know, you could fiddle faddle on your own, or you can get right to the nitty gritty and get proper instruction, and you only have to learn it. You only have to learn it once because you're learning it the right way. Hopefully, you got a good teacher. You're learning it the right way the first time, not learning it the wrong way. Then you got to go back and get with a teacher and undo everything that you did before. You know, the sooner you can get to a teacher to help you out, I think the better. Oh yeah, tapping definitely open up your skill set, and it'll open up your ear to some different things and allow you to use some different stuff. Oh, and yeah, and that MS-60B Plus. I already told y'all about that, Jane. It's a fire. The MS-60B Plus Zoom is. Let me take this off real quick. I think I showed this. I'm sorry about that. I think I showed this a few videos ago, but I'll go through a few sounds on the MS-60B Plus real quick. I'm gonna try to run through them relatively fast. Get this volume check. Let's just bring this up here. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, just some nice versatile sounds. You know, I got pad octave ups on there. Polyphonic at that. Pretty decent polyphonic octave just options. So I love the Z synth on the Zoom pedals. You know, that was actually my first synth pedal, and it actually works very well. It's actually a pretty versatile synth sound that tracks very well, sounds really good. Yeah, rest in peace, Anthony Jackson. You know, one of the first six-string pioneers in the world. I think he might have had the first one, if I'm not mistaken. I know he has something to do with the six-string being coming into existence, I believe. So definitely shout out to him. Definitely OG. One of my favorite people he played with. What's my guy named? Michel Camillo. I am terrible with names, so don't chop me up about that. But Michel Camillo, I believe, not believe. He is an amazing pianist. I'm probably saying his name wrong because I'm terrible at that, but I have all of his music. I literally have all of his music. So, yeah, definitely rest in peace to Anthony Jackson. Was a tremendous player, tremendous bassist, soloist as well. You know, if you haven't heard his solo playing, he definitely could rip and, you know, could play. So I definitely was one of my favorite players. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to try to match it. You can always just go to the Patreon and all the sounds that you was just listening to in the preset pack. I think that preset pack for that one like $15, 15, $20. It ain't expensive, you know, and then you'll actually have how many of them is? Ooh, just it's like even throw in a few pads. So it's literally 20, I believe 21 presets in there. So you ain't gotta try to match it. You can just go download the pack and you'll have 21 of my presets in there. And you just throw them on the pedal through the app on your iPhone or your iPad. But yeah. So the interesting thing about the pedals these days, man, it's just so much you can do with them. Everything from like an MS-60B Plus can get you through gigs just fine. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I say about not, you know, just spending a bunch of money on gear and stuff, even though I have a ton of gear. I mean, this is like the pot calling the kettle black here. I know. Give me a break. I'm trying to help you guys not be a pedal addict like me. You don't want this. You don't want to be like me. But it's after a certain point, like right now, I don't really have any other pedals I really want like that or need. You know, it gets to a certain point where you just have enough sounds to explore. That's all I ever wanted was enough sounds, enough different textures and things for variations of those things to create freely and get to the different sounds I want. That's why I love using things like at the end of my chains, I have the MS-60 Plus, the Plethora X1, and the HX1 because all of those have some really great reverbs, modulations, and delays in there, in addition to other effects. But those are the primarily one. And MS-70 Plus has some really great filters in there that sound amazing. So I try not to keep buying the same pedal, like the pedals over and over again. That it's not necessary. So like, for instance, I have a C4 synth and like other filter pedals, right? I can't use my whole pedal board for filters. Same thing with the preamps. I can't use my whole pedal board space up with analog preamps. Like that's why I use the ToneX one, and I create the preset packs that are on the Patreon for you to buy. Get you a ToneX one. It don't take up no space on your board. You get those three pedals together, and you know what I'm saying, at the top there, and it's you can do pretty much any reverb and ambient type sound you're trying to get to. You know, I do like things like the chase mood too. You know what I'm saying? I might check that out, but that's pretty pricey for just some stuff. I haven't heard any of these ambient pedals that's like $500 for do something that, you know, or do too many things that you would be using on a regular that these pedals wouldn't get out of your way for cheaper. So, you know, if you're on a budget, don't think you got to go and get the most expensive things. You know, definitely check out, you know, like the MS-70 Plus if you're on a real budget and you just want to get into ambient stuff and just have like some create pads and reverbs and delays and stuff. But if you really want something that's just going to inspire you over and over again, Enzo X, I mean, yeah, it's $600, but that's cheap. $600 is cheap for what the Enzo X does. So you got to put it in perspective, you know what I'm saying? It's not the cheapest pedal, but for what it does, it's absolutely cheap. Same thing with the Future Impact. And the Future Impact is like $350, $400 some dollars. And I have to say, this little pedal, there's nothing else like it. You can play it with a keyboard just like the Enzo X, and you can play other keyboards with the Future Impact. So I can plug my bass into the Future Impact, MIDI out to, say, this motif I have over here, play the motif with my bass through the Future Impact. That's a ridiculous feature right there. Come on. What's going on, folks? All the usual suspects popping in. We getting the new folks. We got the usuals in here. Thank all of y'all for chiming in. You know, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe. How else you gonna know when I'm going live? How else will you know? You won't. And then you won't get all this bass. You won't get all this knowledge. Like, y'all know with the ambient bass effects, half of it, you know, I try to play more than I talk, but I also like to interact with you guys. You know, that's why I spend usually the end of the session just answering, just chatting, talking with you guys. So if you chiming in and you wanted to hear me do more playing, just rewind the stream. Just rewind the stream. I played like the whole beginning of the stream, I promise. One of those a while back. I would say, yeah, the MS-70 Plus is going to do you great. It's going to give you better, in my opinion, it's going to give you some of the best modulations, delays, and reverbs for the price point. And you have it all in one pedal, 6 effects at a time. The filters are really good. Now, are there? Nobody's gonna hear the difference. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like if you were playing a cheap delay and you were playing an expensive delay, I can't hear the difference. And nor am I going to try to. I'm just going to listen and enjoy the music. So that's something else to take into account. But when it comes to shimmer reverbs, like which have the pitch tracking in there, the Plethora X1 and HX1 have much better shimmer reverbs than the MS-70 Plus. So I don't know if that's something that you need or you interested in, but that is something there. But the MS-70 Plus has better modulations than the HX1. The delays are about the same in all the units, and the modulations on the chorus on the Plethora X1 is amazing as well. So it just depends on which sounds you want, but I recommend getting some versatile pedals. I as you can see, I pretty much have all multi-effects units to a certain extent. On my this is my main board here. So I try to keep, and I did a video about this as well already, live stream about why I use so many multi-effects units throughout my pedal board. But it's because I don't want to have to change things. I want things to be, this is where this is where this is. Now, whenever I need different effects, I can just pull it up on that particular device. Like if I just, I know I'm going to use these three. I'm gonna use those threes for all the ambient stuff, so they're programmed that way, So that makes a huge difference in your flexibility. If I want a reverb, right, I can have a reverb from anywhere from the Enzo X, MS-70 Plus, the Plethora X1, or the HX1, right? And I can change the orders because all these have like delays, modulations, drives. Well, Enzo X has drives and filters and, all that stuff. So now those group of effects, like all my ambient stuff, I can mix and match. Say I wanted to use a flanger on the HX1 instead of a reverb, I can do that. Same thing with the Plethora X1. Instead of having this be a delay running into the reverb in the HX1, I can have this be the reverb, have the flanger here or modulation here. Same thing with all four of these. So I can pretty much mix and match effects without physically switching anything, and then get a super wide variety of any pretty much sound I can think of. So that's the ultimate goal, I think, when you building your stuff, should be to make it as easy for you to do what you need to do as possible. Because when you're creating, you don't want to be thinking about, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be thinking about that. You want to be able to just play and, sound great, sound amazing, feel good, look good, smell good, all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And not only that, but I also keep these effects, three-way effects loops on here. These are about $40 on Amazon. It's T-Tone three-way effects loop switches. I got one here, and when I have my boards, I have more pedals. Sometimes I hook up on the floor, and I have another one. I have three of those. So each one of these effects loop is all this pedal board. If I want to bypass this whole side, I just take all the loops out, and so it goes directly from my bass coming into it directly to this pedal board over here. Skips all of this, so completely takes this out the chain. Same thing over here, except for it's just the Empress compressor. The only things that are on loops here: Empress compressor, OC5, the Future Impact V4 VIP, Deep Freeze, and C4 Simp. So these pedals are all on this effects loop. So if I don't use them, they out the loop. Only ones that are always on are all of these are, with the exception of the Zoom one, are true bypass. This is analog buffered. But all of these other pedals are true bypass, so it really doesn't make that big of a deal. But, after if I'm skipping all of these, I'm pretty much going from this looper straight over to the ToneX one ToneX 1 is in mono, coming out to the Enzo X, and then from the Enzo X, it's all stereo from here. Stereo out the Enzo X to the MS-60B Plus, Plethora X1, HX1 to the Source Audio Atlas compressor, running 1176 into a LA2A emulation. So that's pretty much this, the easiest way for me when I'm on a gig to do it. And I also have MIDI incorporated down here on the floor. I got a MIDI Captain, CME H2 MIDI Pro. So when I'm creating and I'm in a studio environment like at my house like I am now, I can have things on or triggered within the loops or whatever the case, like this. And I can just bam. Just turn the Hog 2 on. Didn't touch it. Turn it off. Still have my solo bass sound. Can bypass it. Just bypassed everything with just pressing the MIDI switch, which is crazy. The MIDI Captain is something else that'll be useful to you over time. It and the H2 MIDI Pro. I recommend that, especially if you get something like a Future Impact or Enzo X. The CME H2 MIDI Pro is an easy way for you to do your presets in the computer or store your stuff, back up your stuff, download my preset packs onto the pedals from the Patreon. That's right. And you can do all this stuff with MIDI, and you can use it to distribute USB MIDI throughout your board, because I have the HX1 and the MS-60B Plus on USB MIDI, have Hog 2 on standard MIDI, and really I can put the majority of this board, the V256 vocoder, this orange pedal here, also has MIDI. The multi-stomps have MIDI, even the old ones. This is the original MS-50G over here. And the Future Impact, Enzo X, the C4 synth and the Source Audio pedals also have the ability to be preset changed via MIDI. So, and the ToneX 1 now. The ToneX 1 has MIDI as well. So that, like, having MIDI capable pedals, if you're gonna have a lot of them, will definitely make your life a lot easier and not have you tap dancing on stage. Because if I want to go, now I got just a little bit of modulation on for my bass sound, you know what I'm saying? Little filter funk. Straight back to the modulation. Straight back to the filter. And I can switch the HX1 that I have an analog flanger on there. I could turn that on and off without touching it. And it's a very subtle effect. I'll hit my flux not working. For some reason, the flux decided it wasn't going to work for me. Whatever. Just hooking things up, you know what I'm saying? So, having that MIDI part of your setup just allows you to just. You saw I was just clicking through presets there, and mind you, it took a while to set. It took a while to set them things up, boy. Whew. But you got to have each pedal on a different MIDI channel, and pretty much what the MIDI captain allows me to do is, with one pressing the switch down is 6 commands, and releasing the switch is 6 commands. So basically, with a press and release, I can control 12 different commands from different pedals or whatever the case. So up to 12 pedals or whatever the case, on and off, and the preset. So if you, for instance, say you wanted a sound, you would have to program the preset change. So if I wanted this preset to go to preset 52, I have to set that up. Then if I wanted it to be able to turn on and off, that's a different control command. You know what I'm saying? And then so forth and so on. So like all these different commands, you got to pretty much have all the manuals, which luckily today you can just download them offline, but you need to have all the manuals on hand when you're setting up your MIDI setup, so you can just, know what you're controlling. And then, from there, I would say just take your time. Don't rush out there with your MIDI setup. Take your time. Make sure that it is locked in, and get used to it. It is different for me to reach for the MIDI captain than to reach for the pedals. You know what I'm saying? And it makes, not because, I have different, when I want a sound, now I can just think of the sound I want, click it, go. And it changed the whole board, just like a multi-effects unit would. Essentially, with me, I believe MIDI kind of makes your pedal board essentially a multi-effects unit. So, yeah, that tap dancing is dead. It's not happening. It's not happening. And I use a ton of sounds in my solo show, and I'm looping live. I'm trying to look good. I'm trying to interact with the crowd. It's just too much to, I'm trying to worry about the money, where my money at. You got my bread. You feel me? I ain't got time to be tap dancing on stage. Plus, like I said, it gets to be a lot, like trying to remember where everything is. That's why another reason why I have multi-effects units is because typically they have a way to have that MIDI aspect in there and have those presets just change and different parameters. So it makes my life a lot easier when I'm doing a solo gig, not having to try to tap dance, try to get my loops right, try to think of new ideas if I'm making up something on the spot, and it's a lot. Because even when you're looping live, I'm still mixing. Like, I got to think about all that stuff, like how loud is the sound about to be in comparison to the rest of the track that I'm going to build on top of it. That's why, if I'm doing a pad first, it might be kind of quiet, and then build other pads on top of that, and to get it ultimately to the sound I want it to be as a layered sound. Then I got to think about that layered sound in contrast to the bass sounds and the drum sounds. Got to leave room for all of that. So all that stuff you got to think about when you live looping and you got pedals and sounds and stuff. You don't want to be thinking about, oh, I got to press this pedal. I just want to go click, sound, just go from there. So I know it seems like a lot to set up. Let me see. Just so you guys, I don't know if you can see that, but it's down here on the floor. And I just use a regular old USB hub to distribute the USB MIDI to the different MIDI pedals. And it's actually, it's also powering the MIDI captain. I got the MIDI captain running into, it's powering the MIDI captain as well. So it's cool. Yeah, see, that is the hard part. Like, the setting up the MIDI is going to take you some time, especially if you're new to it. I luckily have been playing keyboard and using, DAWs, recording softwares and stuff. So I know how to use MIDI, but it's it's the individual commands you got to input that just takes you so much time and drains you. But I would say, man, don't try to program all the sounds at once. Just try to program maybe a few couple sounds a day and just spend some time dialing those in on the individual devices. So when those presets come in and everything sounds good. Like that was one of my biggest things too. I had to create the presets within the devices to even be able to recall them. So I had to have the entire sound in mind from the Hog 2 or whatever synth device and everything else. Make that, play through it. All right, I like that. Now go back and input all this MIDI PC message this, it's a CC message that, and I had to look through all the manuals. So it can take some time, you know. Well, what you were hearing from the worship from Sunday, um, that wasn't even really a good mix, to be honest with you. That was literally just the H5. I use a Zoom H5. Where is it? It's just if you look it up, it's called a Zoom H5. It's a recording device, but it has built-in microphones and built-in XLRs. So unfortunately, they didn't have. I can get that mix to sound so much better if they would give me another headphone monitoring unit, and I can create a separate mix for the live stream. That would get you the cleanest mix out of it. But that's just the mics from the H5, which are better than your iPhone. You know what I'm saying? So I have that hooked up as a audio interface for my phone, and then I'm using that the stereo mics on there to capture the entire room. And what you were just hearing is what it sounds like over in the band corner. Doesn't mean that's what it sounds like in the house. You know what I'm saying? So like in that corner, that's just how it sounds in that corner because I have a bass amp there. They got monitors, live monitors. Even though we have in-ears, they still use stage monitors and stuff, you know, but it is what it is. You know, that's pretty much how that was. So I mean, I hope to get that mix way better. Like I want that mix to be like this one, where you know I play things and it really sounds how it sounds to me. When I go back and listen to the stream, this sounds exactly how it sounds in my headphones. You know what I'm saying now. So that's what I'm kind of trying to get to with the live stream when I'm out, which is difficult. But I want you guys to just enjoy the streams. You know, I performed with my students on Saturday as well, and had the worst backline bass amp I've ever had in my life. Like the amp literally just farted every time I played a note. No notes were clear or clean at all. Everything was just blah, 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 blah. And I had to literally deal with that for a whole set at a festival in front of people while I'm performing with my students, you know, and all this other stuff. So I definitely, I definitely do appreciate good sound engineers when I have them, for sure. So, all right, guys. I think that's all I'm gonna do for right now. I may come back later if I just feel like doing a little session before I go teaching something. But I definitely appreciate you guys hanging out with me for another ambient bass effects mornings. You know, we'll be back tomorrow sometime between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. And you can find me on all social media at the Bass Negus. Make sure you go to that Patreon though. Sign up on that Patreon. Support the channel. Get you some preset packs. You know what I'm saying? And then we can go from there. But thank you guys for hanging out. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. And